Margot,
Yes.
so good to see you. I'm so glad you came back. Thank you. We just didn't get to finish our conversation. I was like, I left our last time we were together here on Pata 2, wishing we had more time, and I know we didn't necessarily. And what I wanted to pick up on, and if you're willing to go here, is you've been through a lot of transformation from when we were hanging out together, which we realized had been a long time.
A long time.
Collaborating, growing economy, working on entrepreneurship, helping support Osage Nation and other tribes in the Tulsa area. We were in the thick of like the just activity of seeing Tulsa reach its full potential. May Tesla move to Tulsa. I'm wondering. You talked about you gotten divorced. I've also gotten divorced from Kristen, and it was a very difficult thing for me, situation, process, and it took a while to overcome that. I'm wondering for you, kind of what happened and what transpired, and obviously on the other side of this, it's worked out really well. But in the moment, I know that it was difficult to continue building a business while at the same time having so much challenges within my personal life. A lot of people through this, but I'd never been in it as thick as I was this particular time. I'm wondering what is it that you were doing to manage yourself and to be able to stay focused and keep going on in such a difficult kind of emotional moment of transition.
Boy, there's a lot of questions there. Number one, it's great to see you again, and that just makes me happy. Number one.
Me too.
Divorce, it's not anything that when you get married, that's something that's like, it's there, but it's not anything you ever want. I mean, when you get married, you give your whole heart and everything. Mm-hmm. But as you go through in a marriage, you learn values. And I think if I was going to impart any knowledge, is that I know how I was raised, and domestic violence had no place, and I never saw it in my house. I never saw it with my parents. So when you're faced with it, you have to make some major decisions. Is this where I want to be? And even though I divorced someone that I really loved, but I also found out that I loved me more. And I think that's important for any, and here I was sitting in a good friend of ours, Suzanne, who used to be with the chamber.
Stuart.
Yeah. Suzanne had moved from there and was over the domestic violence. So when she saw me walk in the door, it was like, what? I mean, oh, wow, So the thing is, I have been advocating against domestic violence because I've seen it in my community. I've seen it with my friends, but I didn't think I'd see it in my own home. And so when I was faced with that decision, I had a choice of, can you work through it? And I think that sometimes in life you have to draw, what is the line in the sand that, if you're going to disrespect me at that level, if I put myself in that, back in there without getting counseling or whatever. And, of course, he has apologized a 1,000 times. And if he could change that moment in time, I know he would. But the fact remained is that I had to make a decision. And all the while, I'm not only running a business, but I'm also the chairwoman of the largest, it's called the National Center for American Indian Enterprise. I was the first woman to ever lead about a 500,000 member organization of entrepreneurs, tribal enterprises, gaming enterprises, everything that had to do with business. And I had to go 2 weeks after that happened and, put on this face of, what I'm doing. And so it's just, you have to make the decisions of, I had to do it. I had to go through with a divorce because I just I just knew that I couldn't put myself in harm's way, and if someone's going to disrespect you. So unfortunately, that's how my divorce ended. And he has since remarried, and I've decided, you know, maybe not, not that dating's not off the table or anything, but I'll put it this way. I think you hear a lot in business right now that everyone's having to pivot. Um, and and I think that's what I did then. I wanted to go forward, but I just had to move in a different direction because, if you're not happy in your personal life, it's really hard. And you know this, it's really hard to jumpstart your business. And then at the same time, my business partner came in and said, um, I'm getting older. I want to close down the business. I don't want it. You can have it, and I'm going. So within a matter of 4 or 5 months, I had that to deal with. Well, that was in November. And I was also a foster parent for a young man. And he was with me for 3 years during his high school years. He, his mother was in jail, and she left. She got out of jail, and she wanted all of her kids back. And absolutely. And so he went on back to Tulsa, got married, and as life would have it, he was married and had several kids. And one night, right after Christmas in 2012, him and his little brother went to go to the Quick Trip in Tulsa, one of the brand new ones there at, I want to say, Lewis and the 44. Right when it opened, they lived not too far from there, and they got T-boned by a drunk driver. So I had some major life changes in just months apart, and then how to just take that all in and move forward. So I closed down the business, got a divorce, and was helping his wife, who his widow now, and just to move on, you know.
What I could feel it
A lot.
through the screen. I could feel there was a lot going on through the screen last time we were talking. And what we're really trying to do is help people understand how to persevere, how to handle these, how to move through these transitional times, and there's an opportunity within those to either go stronger, take those lessons with you and apply them in new ways as you go forward, or let them beat you down. Obviously, that didn't happen with you. You kept going. What were you doing during those times? And I'll share maybe a little bit about what I was doing.
Right.
That
It was really
to keep going, because that's a lot to be handling emotionally and just physically, and it can drain you. So what were you doing to overcome and keep going?
well, really, it was setting a new direction. If you're going to close one business, it's just like once you do one business, you know the model to set up another one, get started, go out, and you're going to have to market yourself and really use your business network. There were people that didn't believe that had happened. They didn't want to believe, oh, that didn't happen. She may have made that up. And I had to deal with some of that. And then other people were like, we knew that was happening. That was going to happen. That's, he grew up in that type of environment. And so to break that cycle of abuse, but I decided to jump out of that cycle. And I did it and now that it doesn't seem like it's the right reason at the time, but I knew it was. And then once I reestablished my business, and then you get that, I don't know what we call it, that fire in your belly where you're like, okay, no one's going to drag me out of this or get me out of this. I went through like the hurt, the sadness, what did I do wrong? And then, you know what? I was smart and I did get some help. I went and talked to some people, which to me was the smartest thing to do. And also, I had a great network of friends that stood right by me. And so, how do you get unstuck from that? The thing is that you know what value you have. I don't depend on anyone to tell me, oh, Margot, you're really good at this, or you're that. I know what I'm good at. And I'm also, um, using your network. Oh my gosh. And then I found it really refreshing that when I started letting everyone know that I was starting a business, then the clients started coming. And that was the best part. And then you're refocused and you're redirected. And I really think that even in these times right now, um, I had to look at, once again, when you're faced with adversity, and we're all sharing an adversity right now globally. How does this impacting us being home? Well, for those of us who have worked from home, then not a big deal.
Right.
But you see other people struggling with it, and you could see sadness on them, or they don't, or not everyone is a consultant like, or do what we do. There are people who work in the different industries. And then I said, if now's the time. If there is any time that you want to get into business that is online, or you have a skill set, that now is the time.
Okay.
And what's the worst thing that could happen? It may not work out for you. But the other thing is, what if it does? And that's the exciting part about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right. And I think some people are as fearful of the being successful as maybe they are of failing sometimes, People
Right.
are fearful of success as well.
Right.
Margo, that's, getting help, I think, was one of the best things you said here in terms of like reaching out to people to talk to who are specialists who can help you think through the challenges. I know when I first was a CEO back in my 20s, the board insisted that I get a counselor, a psychologist. And it's very common practice for CEOs to have psychologists and counselors just as a normal practice to make sure that they're keeping their head straight. And so sometimes I move from coach into counselor with clients. But what happened for me is I was very with me and what I went through, and I want to see if there's any parallels to this, and I'll be as quick as I can. I at first was very upset and hurt. I was hurt, and for me it was not cool, and I felt like I'd been wronged in some way, and over time I realized, sitting in quiet places and meditating and just processing, that I was overworking. I wasn't paying attention. At the time I was working probably 20-hour days, 18 to 20-hour days every day, right? Just constant work. Lots of projects and clients, and this was a very busy time, and always was, but in particular that it was just for a long period of time we're busy, and I wasn't paying attention. And then we were working together, and then it created more tension, and wasn't paying attention to her needs, Kristen's needs at all in those days, and so all of a sudden, if I went from being upset and sad to realizing my role within the reality, because it takes two to tango. And so I started really looking at what I was doing and how I behaved in a way that was unconducive to a relationship, and continue to do that today. But I found that my work ethic at the time, which I've shifted, I don't work quite as hard as that now, 12-hour days. But what it found is that that entrepreneurial curse, if you will, of working and then the relationships goes away. It really led me to the situation where I just wasn't really in a relationship anymore, as I look at it now, and that it was not healthy. And Kristen probably made she made the best decision for herself and for us at the time. At the time, I didn't realize it. Looking at it now, I do. And so I've used it as a lesson and a learning tool to help also with future relationships and my current relationships so that it's better. And what were some of the takeaways that you gained from that? And then, are you able to apply those as you go forward because I'm still applying in my business and personal life. Just thought I'd be interested in what your lessons were.
Yeah. And I really think after everything, all the dust had settled, we were able to talk. And a lot of it had to do with the change. Unfortunately, when you work that hard, you also reap the benefits of that.
Mm-hmm.
Your status is goes up. People know you. And if you've got one person who is really successful and then you have your partner, and I think it's important to, and I thought I was doing everything to bring him along, but that really wasn't my job to do that. He needed to be his own man. And I really think in some way, and I like what you said, that entrepreneurial curse, because you can see, like you, I was working up to 10 o'clock last night, and then preparing for everything for today. And not everybody is made that way. And he would ask, can you turn it off at 6 o'clock? But business doesn't stop then. And, and if I have a client that there was something that was wrong with a project or had questions, you had to answer them. And I think having an understanding partner, and I think that helped him. And in some ways, we talked it out, but it was like too little too late. But I guess I was needing him to step up when I was closing a business and starting a new one. Which meant he needed to kind of step up during the time of me restarting. And it was frustrating to him because he didn't have to. I mean, he didn't know.
Yeah, I think what's important about what you're saying, and for our audience out there, and I've talked about this before, and that is, you've really got to make sure you're communicating clearly with your partner, with
right,
your wife, spouse, whoever that is, what you're doing, so that they're on board. Because there's nothing worse than having a significant other, partner, spouse who's against what you're doing or constantly complaining, and it's toxic behavior that really undermines even the strongest person's ability to be successful. And so that alignment is a critical thing you're talking about, and sometimes it can't align. Like, I'm prone, as you know, and you don't know Seema, but you'll meet her one day. Strong women. I like women who are strong and smart, and like smarter than me, and that can be difficult for some men. And you fit in that category. You're just an independent, strong, like, example of what a woman can be. And what recommendation would you have for men when they're engaging with strong women? Because you've probably experienced more than your share of men being intimidated and uncomfortable. And when you're just being yourself, what advice would you have for any women watching around how to engage with men who are intimidated by strong women?
I would look at it this way. If he had the understanding that, and comfortable with himself, that the reason I married him is because I wanted to be with him. I mean, I loved him and wanted to be with him. But and I really didn't know how to ask at the time, hey, I'm very busy. I want to be with you. All I'm asking is, you're not going to have to worry about me going out on you or, being deceitful or anything. I just need you to give me enough slack to go do what I do. And I do, and I appreciate him saying, hey, can we shut business off so we can have family time? And that was important.
Yeah.
And majority of the time, I did say, you know what, you're right. I said, hey, I need to get off the phone. So I kind of backed it off from 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then I was able to do that. But then other opportunities started happening to do international travel and speak. I've done international speaking.
Of course.
And so from Turkey to every province up in North America. And I was getting ready to go on like a 3-week trip. And it didn't happen because I had just ran myself into the ground and ended up having some health issues. And I said, I can't do this. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go. But,
So but I'm going to go back to my question, because this is not so much about your ex-husband as much as it is about men in general. Because I work with a lot of women, right? And I work with a lot of women, and we have a vision at Griffin Works of using economic empowerment as a lens to not only empower women but to address gender-based violence. So the more financial freedom you have, the more you can easier you can get out of your situation if it is one that's
Right.
dangerous. And in some places, 68, 70% GBV, gender-based violence, and that's towards women mostly.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but
let me say this.
my question. So I've seen a lot of these situations with women, and helped and brought in different players, but where I've always had a challenge, and where I see women having a challenge, is that particularly strong women who are engaging in business or engaging with men who are intimidated or uncomfortable by strong women in that business environment. How do you manage that when you have a man who you're trying to engage with in a business environment, who, this is for our viewers, who is not, you can tell, maybe other people don't see it the same way, but you can tell that there's tension here because I'm a woman and he's not comfortable with me. How do you manage those situations? Because they must happen for you.
Well, I'm going through something like that right now with a potential client. I think really the man has to be comfortable with who he is and what his knowledge is. When you meet someone, it's just that, like, the gender roles are, if it's a man to a man, well, they know how to deal with that. It's all that posturing and all that, but it doesn't work well with women. So when you've got a smart woman, and I hate to say it, but it's almost like, I don't have the time to feed the ego. I just have time. We're here to do a business, but you can't come off, because people think, oh, well, she's smart, she's successful. That must mean she's really a bitch to work with. Okay, I'm just saying. But and those are some of the things that we have to come up across. If you're a smart, educated, whether you're at the top of the chain of or the scale of, you're like a CEO, or you're in top of management, people think you got there by being mean, and that is not the case.
Right.
I liked what you said earlier in your intro. There's been an age-old storytelling in Indian country, is that's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen. And I've learned that along the way. And a lot of it is to listen, and it's also how you interact back and forth with that. So the way that each one is different, because everybody is different. There are some men that and normally, I hate to say it, but I am usually the only woman in the room of 40 men when we're doing something. So number one, it's how to present yourself, your posturing. They got to be able to feel comfortable that she's strong in her mind, she's strong in her words. And then it's really interesting, like, when you do talk, just add value to it. Margot, what do you think? And then be ready. It's a different kind of a skill set you need to have when you're working in a room full of all men. And well, we saw that when we were on the commission. There was very few women. It was like Melody Blanchett, myself, and later on Cassie. Huh? Pardon me?
Cassie Reese, I think, appointed somewhere at the end, towards the end.
Yeah, at the end. God, there was a couple other. I just, have to think about it. But when you're talking about the things that you absolutely know, that's why that was the first time ever that we had a tribal committee in working with and seeing the value of the tribes. And no one had ever been on that committee who was Native American and had those connections. So it's how you present it, and not, you don't have to be, and I see this with my younger counterparts in business, where they kind of feel like they have that empowerment, but they forget the women who have opened those doors for them. So don't jack it up. We open those doors for you all to come in and, as my dad used to say, conduct yourself accordingly. But it is that you don't need to come in there and demean people, or just because you have status. Do it with kindness. It's so much easier to be, and again, to listen to people, listen to what they're saying in that way, and ask those questions. And I think that goes for men and women, because there's a lot of knowledge that I've been in business 21 years, and there's still not a day that goes by that I don't learn a lesson about. And it's just, number one, just do the right thing all the time, and never cut down another entrepreneur. To me, I see that so much. Well, my company's better than their company, and you don't need, don't run no one down to make yourself look better. Those are just some, basic. They're basic.
Universal. I
But
call
you
it
gotta say them.
it's universal wisdom, Margot.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, our time is running out again.
I know.
But I'm so grateful you're here. And I think that hopefully we had a number of women out there, particularly around the world, who are listening to you, because I think that you represent an example and an inspiration to women of what's possible, and your resilience in difficulty, whatever that difficulty may be, and layers of difficulty in your last transition are just impressive. And I always have been, and I'm just honored to be your friend, Margot. And
Oh, thank you.
thank you for being on the show.
Yeah,
Can't wait to be together again soon. Yeah. So there's the book.
we
Okay.
didn't have time.
Any updates? Oh, I forgot about this. Are there any updates you've got?
No, I don't. When I do, I will reach out to you.
Yeah, we're gonna bring you back on.
And now that I know where you're at now, I'm up there at least. Well, prior to COVID-19, I was up there probably around 3, 4, 5 times a year. So now I know.
When you're back there, you just contact me. I'll make time. We'll have you over as a guest.
Well, that would be great.
Margot, thank you so much. Thanks for inspiring.
Yes.
Stay strong.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.